Hello everyone, welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. We're back here ready to get technical again with Applied Energistics. So just as a recap from the last episode, I always get spun around here in this base. We need to start adding some more machinery and landmarks to help us orient ourselves. But yeah, in the last episode we worked on getting 8 blast furnaces and 4 vacuum freezers set up in the void dimension here, and all connected to Applied Energistics autocrafting. So I have been doing some more recipe pattern encoding, trying to get all the ingots that we need, but this is going to be an ongoing process, and recipe encoding is something that we're going to be doing a lot of today. So essentially in this episode we have 2 objectives. We're going to fix both item storage and power storage. So I just got finished building these data drives here. It's essentially a data center that we've built, and this is going to hold a whole bunch of ME drives to store items and potentially fluids. I'm still yet to decide how exactly we want to store fluids. We could store them in super tanks, but I haven't fully committed to this idea yet. I think I'll talk about this at a later stage. And here's a question to you guys. Do you think this is going to be enough to get us to tier 7 rocket? I mean, you would like to think so. Since in GTNH we have the expanded storage cells, we can go all the way up to... yeah, I think it's 16,384k. Which is not cheap, by the way. This is UV circuits. Oh, you know what? I think there's actually one above that as well in the form of the ME Digital Singularity. Look, check this thing out. This is essentially infinite item storage of one type. So this is like perfect. If only we could craft it. But this is like way at the end of the game. Quantum chess, UEV circuits. A lot of those infinity catalysts. Oh no. Yeah. That makes me nervous just looking at the recipe there. So I've mentioned this a couple of times, but today is the day I've decided that we are going to move all the items from the drawer network here in the old base. We're going to make them all digital and move them over to the void dimension. We also have these drives here, which should be easy enough to move over. However, before we continue with item storage, let's move over to power storage. Oh yeah, we're also going to be doing some experimentation. Some experiments with some brand new features in GTNH and Applied Energistics. Oh, the inventory is full. Let's go drop the building blocks back. Yeah, we have some brand new features that might help us today with item storage, but we have to do some testing to fully understand how they work. But yeah, before we start to do any more item movement, let's move on to the power situation. So just to recap, the power situation right now is we have our 5 large gas turbines burning benzene. This is going to remain as it is, most likely, this episode. Although in the not too distant future, I will be crafting up a couple more of those turbines. Today we're going to look at upgrading power storage though. So right now we have these IV batteries. And I've mentioned the solution before, but it's in the Storing and Transforming EU chapter of the quest book. There is a quest here called Take Charge, and it asks us to craft the Lapotronic Supercapacitor. This thing is an expandable and upgradable multi-block battery. So we're just going to do some crafting here. When was the last time we done some crafting on camera? So let's get ourselves a new NEI bookmark page. And we'll follow the quest here and start to pin things as we go. So of course we need the machine controller. This takes Lapotronic crystals. We need LUV circuits. Power ICs. We should have all this stuff. Lapotronic Supercapacitor casing. By the way, we're going to try to autocraft all this stuff, at least as much as we can at the moment. Because eventually we're going to have more than one of these supercapacitors. Okay, so we've got the machine controller pinned. We need empty capacitors, which is lapis screws and plates. And then we have to fill the capacitors, at least half, I think. Yeah, remember that you need more than half of the blocks to be non-empty capacitors for it to be valid. So we can have some very cheap blocks just to fill in the multi-block. But depending on how many we fill with batteries will determine how much power the multi-block can store for us. Let's see, we also need a maintenance hatch, which we should have. That's very easy. We need more of the casing, and I think there's a way in NEI to actually modify the amount that you have pinned. What was it, 46 casing? Yeah, 46 casing and 9 capacitors. I got that backwards. 46 of these, and just 9 of these empty capacitors. Although this is expandable, this is the expandable part. We could technically build more capacitors, but it also depends on how much borosilicate glass we can use, or we can craft. So 41 borosilicate glass. This is the part I'm worried about, actually. So I had a look at this a few hours ago, and I went to our ore processing system, and I took out or basically change the filters to change how we're processing rock salt. So if we check the recipe for borosilicate glass blocks, it comes from the dust, and you need to make the dust in a mixer. So let's actually encode some recipe patterns here. We don't have this yet, do we? Well, we do have some borosilicate glass dust, which is good. And to be honest, this might be enough. How many do we need? 41? Oh, you can also get it from some IV loot bags here. You know what? Just because we can, let's open some IV loot bags here. We do have 2 in our ME system, so let's enchant them at least. And let's just see what we can get here. I don't believe it. What are the chances of that? What are the chances of that? Guys, you saw it here first. I was recording. This is, well, there's our borosilicate glass. We don't have to go any roundabout way to get this. Oh, that is so good. That's excellent. Okay, well, I guess that's the first item off our list. Second one is the maintenance hatch, which we can craft. Third is lapis plates and screws. I don't know if we have any recipes for these. We have a recipe for the screws. We just need a lapis plate recipe, which we'll do in the cutting machine. Let's actually do this like a couple at a time. Yeah, we'll stick this in the cutting machine as well. Oh, I just realized this is going to be a colored lapis block for some reason. We might not have the lapis block. No, we don't have the lapis block recipe, so we'll have to adjust that. It's just 9 lapis and a compressor, and I know we have a compressor somewhere. And we'll make sure we adjust the plate recipe here as well to use the right lapis block. So the block goes in the compressor and the other one goes in the cutting machine. So that should be that off the list. We can unpin all of these things. Next up, let's look at the supercapacitor casing. This is the next most expensive thing. So we need tantalum plates, we need tungsten steel, long tungsten steel rods, and more lapis blocks. So tantalum is something that you can get, or something I mentioned a couple episodes back. I don't know how many of you guys will remember the fact that we moved our miner into a manganese vein. And a few hours ago, I did notice that it finished. It dropped its mining pipe in the ender chest, so we have to go and collect that thing. Oh, it looks like it's right over here. I didn't realize it was actually so close to our base. It's just out of render distance. And let's double check. Yeah, it looks like it's off. Oh, guys, look who I've spotted. Not this gravity zombie here. I haven't seen a mob in this game in forever. Because we... Actually, that's not true. We died to a mob the other day. But look at this guy. Any of you guys remember this guy? From Season 1? Way back when? Oh my goodness. I haven't seen you in a very long time. And that also reminds me, earlier in this season, we got ourselves a... It's this guy, he's still here. I seen you guys comment and we still have Bone Man. Check this guy out. We need a home for this guy. Oh, I didn't realize he spawns skeletons. Hey. Hey. Yes, we still have Bone Man. He is still alive. I don't know what this guy's doing. Bone Man lives, and we need a place for him in the new base. So if you guys have any suggestions on where we could place him, then oh, it didn't retract the mining pipes here. Yeah, let me gather this miner here. Okay, we are back at the base here, and I haven't dropped the miner anywhere else. I still have it on me in the compressed chest here, but it might be influenced by some material shortages, which we might encounter as we start to craft up the rest of this battery. So let's just hold on to the miner for now. We're going to add a recipe here for tantalum plates, and we have over 1,000. I think that's going to be enough. Let's do these like 8 at a time. That's going to go into the bending machine. I'm actually looking forward to moving over all of the auto crafting setup into the void. That is something I'm looking forward to. We'll get to that in the next couple episodes, but there's a few priorities first. Okay, then I think we've got the recipe already for the frame box for these casing. We do not have the long tungsten steel rod because that is made in a fluid solidifier and we've not automated the fluid solidifier, so I'll just batch these up manually. We could do it in the forge hammer, but this is... Oh, actually it's the same. It's an ingot versus an ingot, because each rod is 1 ingot, or half an ingot, sorry. Yeah, it's essentially the same thing. We're just going to add a forge hammer recipe, and we'll adjust this later, because remember, our forge hammer is the one that we use for gravel, and that was in episode 49. I don't think I showed you guys this before, but it's sitting right here. So that's going to be removed. The recipe should be in here, yeah. And in fact, there's even an assembler recipe available for the casing blocks. So we need how many? 46. This is the moment of truth. Supercapacitor casings, 46. What are the chances? 148 tantalum. Wait, that's all? I guess it is, yeah, 4 per casing, but we're missing a recipe for tantalum. Is that a blast furnace recipe by any chance? It looks like it is, yeah, with nitrogen gas, but that is no problem for us at this point. We'll have to cut off the hot ingot step. We'll do this like half a stack at a time. And I realized I didn't actually show how the vacuum freezers get their input. So maybe we can see that really quick. So let's drop the pattern in the EBFs, and we'll request, let's request like 2 stacks of tantalum. That should be no problem, assuming I filtered in the nitrogen gas already. Yeah, that one is going. Maybe these don't have nitrogen. And it's only 7 seconds per ingot. Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome. Okay, so for the vacuum freezers under here, we have a storage bus on the input. And the storage bus has an OR dictionary card, OR dictionary filter card. And the storage bus here is on the highest priority. We're going to talk about priorities whenever we do the item movement later on and item storage. But this is essentially on the highest priority, which means that anything that can be stored here will be prioritized here first. However, we have this in the OR dictionary filter limited to ingot hot. So that essentially matches to the OR dictionary name of the item itself, and every hot ingot has ingot hot. Oh yeah, you can see it in there. 6 seconds to cool down. Yeah, that really shouldn't take too long. We have a couple circuits left to craft as well for the machine controller. And it's going to be LUV circuits. Do we have any LUV circuits? I honestly can't remember. Apparently we do. Did we get this from a loot bag as well? I think we might have, but we've got ourselves LUV circuits. I think at this point we can, in fact, craft the LUV circuits. We might just be missing a quest for it. Yeah, you know what? Let's pick up this quest right now. I think we can get everything here. Everything here looks doable, and we should be able to just put in a recipe. It is an IV circuit assembler. We want this SMD diode. Yeah, this recipe right here is what we want. Yeah, let's add this recipe, and we do have an IV circuit assembler. I saw this the other day. It's currently in our processing array over here. Circuit assembler IV right here. Yeah, and this is where we make all of our high tier circuits. So we can actually replace the mainframe, and we can go up to the master quantum computer. So this is a page we haven't seen for a while, but just to get you guys back up to speed on all of the Gregtech circuits, it's a little complex, or it looks more complex than it actually is. And look how many circuits there are. I don't think we had these the last time. Temporally transcendent mainframe. The max tier circuit. It doesn't have a crafting recipe either. Yeah, some of these are not quite implemented yet, it looks like. Anyways, essentially the further down and to the right you go, the higher tier of circuit. And there are multiple circuits at each tier. So if we take, for example, our LUV circuit that we were crafting, we are down here. So all of these ones on this line is LUV. But the further to the right you go, the cheaper they are to craft. So in essence, we want to get as far to the right as possible in every given tier, since it's the cheapest way to make the circuits, which is why we're taking out the mainframe and swapping in the quantum computer. They are both LUV and allow you to craft 99.9% of the same recipes. It's just that, yeah, one is cheaper to craft than the other. So let's see if we have everything for 2 quantum computers, which is for the quest. And we certainly do. Oh, this is glorious. I love to see stuff like this. We can just hit start, and we don't need this recipe anymore. And in fact, that's going to get us another IV loot bag. We might open that, we might not. And we almost have enough for the ZPM circuit. In fact, I think we can craft this at this point, but we're not going to do this today. These are going to be needed for the assembly line, which is a big milestone in the pack. Yeah, so our tantalum is still cooking, our circuits are crafting. Let's see what else we need here for the battery, and I think it's just going to be Lapotron crystals, which look pretty easy. These take a vibrant alloy and Lapotron dust, which is lapis dust and energium. And energium is ruby dust and redstone dust. And by the looks of things, we already have recipes for this. I don't remember adding it. We don't have enough crafting CPUs, but yes, we do have recipes for the Lapotron crystals, which is good. Do we have enough vibrant alloy? 216, yeah, that should be more than enough. We are going to add a recipe here for the vibrant alloy ingots in the blast furnace though, which should be simple enough, assuming we have the space in our EBF, which we don't. We've already filled the interface. So to remedy that, we can craft up a pattern capacity card, and that should give us 9 more slots in the interface. But yeah, it's looking like we have all the materials that we need here. This is going to go in here, and vibrant alloy. Perfect. I nearly forgot about a very crucial component here, which is the energy hatch and a dynamo hatch. And this is where the energy is inserted to and extracted from in the multi-block. And of course, this is Gregtech, there are various different tiers, and you don't want to be sending the wrong tier of power through the wrong tier of energy hatch or dynamo hatch. So the way our power situation is wired up right now is we have HSSG cable. This is IV, so we need an IV energy hatch. The energy hatch is the power insert. So we need the IV energy hatch. However, as you can see on the tooltip, this is only rated for 2 amps. Every one of these gives us an amp of IV. So we are generating 5 amps of IV, and well, we will be generating more in the future. So we have to go for the upgraded one. The next upgrade is into a 4 amp IV energy hatch, but that again is still not enough. So I think there's a different upgrade here, and we need to go for the 16 amp IV energy hatch. It's going to be almost the same situation for the dynamo hatch as well. Oh, that's LUV. We want the IV dynamo. Oh wait, no, we do want the LUV dynamo hatch. But we can't craft this yet, so we're going to have to make IV and then put a transformer on the end. That may or may not have made sense to you guys right now, but I'll craft up the components and then explain it afterwards. However, we should now have our circuit crafted, right? The master quantum computer. And there's our quest. We can also by now request the 46 casing blocks that we need. And the final decision we need to make is at which tier are we going to store the power at. So we can either go for EV capacitors, which take the Lapotronic crystals in the craft, and these store 60 million. Or we can go for the IV version. And the IV takes, of course, the IV battery. But this stores 600 million. So assuming we can craft enough of these, we need at least half of them filled. Yeah, we're gonna go for the IV one. I'll get those batteries crafted. I'm a little bit concerned here that things are starting to get stuck. It might just be a slow recipe. I'm hoping that is the case. Oh no, it did actually make it. The casings are coming through now. It's just that in the recipe it didn't clear the crafting status. I believe there's some kind of NBT data with this because it has charge. So we have to add the one that it crafted automatically into the output of the recipe, so that in future it expects to find that specific one with that NBT data. And a very short time later, we've got our controller for the Lapotronic Supercapacitor. We might as well use the mainframes in the craft, even though we have the higher tier circuits. There we go. Our casing blocks are coming through right now. Oh, it gave us the quest. Awesome. And an enchanted IV. Oh, this is too tempting. You're tempting me, game. Did we get borosilicate glass again? I don't believe that, guys. I don't believe... Okay, let me craft the rest of the components we need. As you saw, we've got all the rest of the materials. So yeah, we'll be back to assemble this battery. I don't believe that again. Oh my goodness me. Alright guys, cross your fingers, cross everything that we don't have an explosion here. However, I believe we have everything crafted. Wait, no, I tell a lie. I thought I'd double check this, but apparently I only crafted a 4 amp IV dynamo hatch. We need a 16 amp IV dynamo hatch. And I'll explain why in just a second. Oh, insane transformer. That should be the recipe, there we go. And a 16 amp IV dynamo hatch, along with a high amp transformer IV to go from LUV to IV. Although this will be in reverse, so it'll go from IV to LUV. And we have a 16 amp IV energy hatch as well. I also managed to get 7 of these IV capacitors, the ones that hold the energy orb. I did recycle some of the energy orbs. So I think we had 4 in the void dimension of those energy orbs, and I used all 4 of those and crafted the rest to make 7. But here in the overworld base, we still have a couple of energy orbs. Yeah, it's the 4 I took out of here, but we still have these to work with, or that we can convert over in the future, whenever this system is obsolete and we no longer need it anymore. But for the time being, we do need to keep these, or this power system in this part of the base. So I figured here that we might have a bit of an issue with the redstone control, because we only want the turbines to run whenever we're low on power. And since we're no longer reading this battery anymore, we have to set it up to read the capacitor. So I was just going to keep the circuit down here, right? However, I realised that we can't really transmit a redstone signal wirelessly. You know what, let's just build the multi-block and then we'll worry about the redstone control. So we've got our machine controller, which goes front and centre. Let's put it here. I also crafted up one of these multi-block structure hologram projectors, which gives you a similar functionality that you get in Community Edition in 1.12, where we should be able to see a preview of the structure here. So we'll put maintenance hatch on the side of the controller. We will have our IV dynamo hatch here. No, IV energy hatch here first. So this is power insert from the turbines, and then 16 amp IV dynamo hatch on the output here next to it. Although maybe we shouldn't put it right next to each other. Yeah, let's move this over a block for the sake of the wiring, because if we cross the cables here and these 2 cables touch, the 2 cables that will run up here, then we're going to end up with some explosions, and we certainly don't want that. Okay, let's try build the rest of the multi-block first. Oh, actually, there should be an auto build on this projector, right? Oh, is it shift right click? Yeah, there we go. Okay, did it place them all? Yeah, we're missing 1, but I just misplaced this. So this should go right here. Yeah, and then the rest is borosilicate glass around the side. Let's get our night vision on. It's very hard to see with this projector in. So capacitors in the middle. I don't think it matters which ones are filled and which ones are empty. Let's put the two empty ones together here. And of course we have too much now because we got the things from the loot bags, right? Okay, so do we have a full multi-block here? Yes, perfect. So it does have maintenance problems. We can take care of that very easily. So the other thing about the Lapotronic Supercapacitor that we should probably know is that it loses energy equal to 1% of the total capacity every 24 hours. So just by existing, it's going to lose energy. But that is almost a non-factor. However, if we get maintenance issues, that does increase and is multiplied by the number of maintenance issues present. Yes, so if we have maintenance issues on this machine, it's going to lose even more power. And I suppose the higher tier that we go, because we're IV, I think we're going to lose slightly more than that number I just said there. But it should still be manageable as long as we keep on top of the maintenance issues. Okay, so now for the wiring, and I've made a decision that we're going to switch away from HSSG cable. And you guys pointed out that we can in fact go for vanadium gallium. I was a little bit hesitant on switching to vanadium gallium. Even though it is technically cheaper to craft, we don't have a ton of gallium, and gallium is used in circuits. Oh, we're going to have to cross this wire somehow. I think for now we're just going to go around, but eventually we'll switch it out with a wireless connector. But yeah, vanadium gallium is just vanadium plus gallium in a mixer, and gallium is used a lot in circuits. So we had about 300 vanadium gallium, I think the number was, and I crafted up some cable here. That should be enough. But again, we do have some spare, and we can add a recipe in the blast furnaces. Okay, so this is where we don't want to make any mistakes, and we want to triple check our working. So just because we've used HSSG cable here, I think I might switch it out later, but we're going to continue to use HSSG cable. So this is the one that goes underground here and feeds into the turbines, or out of the turbines, I suppose. So this is our energy input line into the battery. So let's just double check here. We have 16 amps of LUV power. No, IV power. We're sending IV power, even though this is an LUV cable. Oh, and we're also one block off here. Let's move the energy input over a block. And move this over a block as well, the dynamo hatch. Here. And we can plug in our HSSG input. Wait, hold on. I'm so nervous at doing this. I should do a backup. Yeah, it can handle 16 amps of IV power, which is what we're feeding it, maximum. So 16 amps of IV power. Do not explode. Wait, yeah, back up. It's connected. Okay, it's inactive. Do we have to switch it on? Is that what it is? Is there any energy? I don't see any energy. I suppose it's because these are off. Yeah, and it's being disabled by this redstone signal here. So let's just give it a redstone signal. I think we can just do it manually with a redstone torch to override the receiver input. That should have turned on the turbines. Yes, okay. So now we should be seeing EU in the battery. And to be honest, I haven't calculated how much this is going to hold, but it should tell us here. Oh, it's a bit further up in the chat logs here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, 42 million out of a total of 4.2 billion. Or is that trillion? No, that's billion. Yeah, that's billion. Oh my goodness, 95 million EU. This is crazy. Okay, we're losing 24 EU a tick, so that's absolutely nothing. We're inserting 163,000 a tick. And so now we have 16 amps of IV power on the output because we have a 16 amp IV dynamo hatch. And that's going to go into an IV transformer here. And we want this in transform up mode. So we want to transform from IV to LUV. And the reason, as stated before, is just to minimize cable loss. So we want this in transform up mode. We can hit it with a soft mallet. And that will go from 16 amps of IV power into 4 amps of LUV, as you can see on the tooltip there. So this actually should have energy in it. Yes, it does. 500,000 in the buffer. Remember, every energy hatch and dynamo hatch does have a small internal buffer. And then this is where we want to send our 4x vanadium gallium cable. This can handle 16 amps. I might actually convert this down to 1x because we only have 4 amps of LUV, but maybe just for future proofing, we can use 4x cable. Yeah, I didn't actually think about that, but I guess this does future-proof us, and let's make sure we remove all this setup down here. So the other issue is how are we going to redstone control this? My thinking was to copy this circuit that we have down here upstairs, and then just move the redstone transmitter since it transfers wirelessly across this block distance. However, we do rely on signal strength, right? And I was doing a little test here. So if we hook up a redstone line, something like this, and we go to like frequency 7, just pick a random frequency for now, and we should get the output phase here. Or no, that's the receiver. This is the receiver, this is the transmitter. So we're inputting a signal strength of 13 and it outputs 15, so I think it ignores signal strength, which is not ideal for us. So I think this pretty much means that we have to move the whole circuit from down here to up above somewhere. Let's turn the turbines off just in case I forget. The manual override, that is. Okay, so I went ahead and rebuilt the supercapacitor up 2 blocks so that we could fit the circuit in here. And I just rebuilt the exact same circuit as we had down there to control the turbines up here. I just moved it up 2 blocks because I wanted the circuit underneath. I was going to put it on top of the capacitor, but I remembered that we are going to be upgrading this thing in the future and it's going to grow taller. So there's not really any sense in putting anything above it. I mean, I hope the max size is going to fit in here. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you guys can let me know. Is it going to fit in here? But I think we have space. This is the empty tower, is it not? Yeah, this is the tower without any crops. Kind of. We should be able to make it work. We can work the crops around it, if it ever gets that large. I have no idea. But yeah, I'm super happy with this. We have back up to 94 million. And I'm just going to make sure this actually works. It's exactly the same configuration, so it depends on signal strength. The turbines should turn off when this thing is almost full. But that is, of course, going to be much, much longer. Or they're going to be running much, much longer than they did before. Since, of course, we have, like, I don't know how many times we've multiplied our capacity by, but it's a lot. We can store a lot of power. And I also realized here I didn't need to craft the high amp transformer because we do have one here. So yeah, I'll also have to switch out all this HSSG cable. But if I remember right, we can reuse this and recycle it. We can unpackage it into wire. And then I think we can melt down the wire, right? Yeah, we can fluid extract at least back into fluid and then solidify into ingots. So we can reclaim all this HSSG and potentially use it for coils. And we'll just send the vanadium gallium cable here everywhere. Which, by the way, also has, or should be green. Since this is LUV power. And we'll have to be careful since we're now sending 4 amps of LUV. Or no, this was 4 amps before, right? Yeah, the 1X HSSG cable is rated for 4 amps. So we're built to handle 4 amps so far. This is 4 amps of LUV input, so we can just plug the vanadium gallium straight into the existing infrastructure. And again, switching over to the 16 amp vanadium gallium cable it's going to future-proof us for quite some time, I think. And yeah, in the end, besides that little thing in the wire there, the ME wire, I think it's looking not too bad. I might enclose this in some glass, but I didn't want the supercapacitor right here in the middle, blocking the whole view. So I think this is a good compromise. And it's not like stuck underneath where it would also kind of be in the way of all the wiring, especially as we expand upwards. So yeah, now that we've fixed the power, let's have a look at item storage. And I think this video might be getting quite long as well, but oh well. This is GTNH, we're in for a long ride here. Okay, just really quick, I had to try out the glass here. What do you guys think? I think I actually quite like it. I think we're going to keep the glass. Maybe we can try some coloured glass. But to be honest, I really like the opaque glass, just like this. We definitely have to get rid of that cable now. The ME cable sticks out like a sore thumb. But the coloured cable here looks pretty cool, I think. But I don't know, do you guys have any other suggestions on ways we can improve this, aesthetically? Or functionally, for that matter. You might have noticed a mistake in the way that I set it up. Or some efficiency that we're leaving on the table. But to the best of my knowledge, this is a major upgrade for us. Okay, so I've been doing a lot of thinking about how we're going to manage the storage situation in the void dimension, and I was overcomplicating it. I think we should just keep it nice and simple, and basically just have Applied Energistics do all the work for us. So essentially the strategy is we're just going to spam storage cells, as I kind of realised that, I mean, it's not that expensive for us at this point, with the exception maybe of some diamonds, which we might be getting low on. But essentially, we're just going to outpace the rate that we're collecting items and just keep crafting more and more and more drives to manage the storage. And that is a ravenous thunderstorm outside there. Speaking of which, there was a ravenous storm last night where I stay as well. It was crazy. So pretty much when you boil it down, we're just going to store everything in the same location and not try to overcomplicate it, put it all on storage cells with 2 notable exceptions. The first is the crops, because this is fully passive item production. And the second exception is ore processing. So this is of course on its own subnet. So we actually don't need to worry about this, and we're going to keep it separated whenever we move over ore processing into the void. But ore processing is going to stay here until we can upgrade it, because eventually we are going to have like 20 of each machine processing every different type of ore. So I want to make sure we can craft more machines and also sustain them with power before we start moving any of this shenanigans here. Here's a question, are we now getting through the backlog here? Oh yes, perfect. So this chest was full, this chest was full, this chest was full, it still has a bit of stuff to go through, and this chest was all full of unprocessed resources. So if you'll remember, we used to have a storage problem here at the ore processing setup. However, before the episode started, I spent an evening here clearing out the storage drives here on the subnet. So just to get you guys back up to speed, the ore processing system all goes into a separated item storage subnet, And I decided to invest in something called the multiblock container cell. And this thing is relatively cheap to craft. It only costs the 1k storage component and an ME chest. And considering the cost, it can hold a vast amount of items. It's over 500,000. So essentially what I done was I went through the subnet system and identified all of the items which we store a lot of. Things in the hundreds of thousands. So it was like aluminium dust, alumina dust, silicon dioxide, stone dust, coal, raw silicon, potassium, sulfur, things of that nature. And then for each one of those dusts, I partitioned them in a cell workbench onto its own multiblock container cell. And this way we were able to free up our drives and create space for the machines to dump their contents out. And check this out now. 2.6 million alumina dust. I think what happened here is it was all cached in an output bus somewhere. And because we now have space in the drives, it just dumped it all in the ME system. But the storage situation here is actually looking pretty healthy. This one here is full of block container cells. And this one here is pretty much just aluminium and alumina dust in block container cells. These two here are just for general purpose storage, which I guess are just going to remain here. These have a lot of space on. But we were able to free up quite a few 4Ks and 16Ks, which if I remember right, you can actually take the storage component out of. Yes, we can. Shift right click, and you can take it out of the housing. And this way we can reclaim the storage components, which can be used to be upgraded. Although if I remember right, there's actually a more efficient recipe in GTNH. You don't necessarily have to use the shaped crafting recipe. If you use the assembler, I think it's actually much more efficient to craft for example, the 16K. Yeah, check this out. So in the assembler, it's only 16 LV circuits and 4 MV circuits. Whereas if you use the shaped crafting, it costs 4 4Ks and this costs 4 1Ks. So you're better off doing it in the circuit assembler. So in that case, I don't know, maybe we'll just recycle these as they are. As 4Ks, I'm not sure. And all of these things we'll use for the void dimension general purpose storage. And so yeah, these ore processing is just going to stay as it is for a number of episodes until we can upgrade it, as I mentioned. Okay, so I'm going to run you through how I'm going to transfer all the items over. And we're going to steal the ender chest from here. And this is mainly used to send items to ore processing, but we're just going to borrow it here to move everything from the drawers. Let's just start here, for example. We'll put a conveyor on the item pipe. Set this thing to import. And this is going to fill the ender chest with everything in the drawer in the drawer network. Now, some of you guys might be commenting, what about the MEIO port? This thing here, which can transfer between drives and storage cells. To be honest, I forgot about that when I was moving the ore processing subnet, so it took about 2 hours to transfer all the stuff onto the block container cells. But it was pretty chill. I just had some YouTube videos on the side. It was only afterwards I remembered about this thing. However, the MEIO port, as you can see on the quest here, it does warn us about this. Don't put it in an unformatted drive while using storage drawers to store tons of stuff. If you want to move your stuff around, put it in new drives, then empty the old ones, or disconnect your storage drawers temporarily. So I don't know for sure what the deal with that is, if we're going to end up voiding items, but that's essentially why I want to get away from storage drawers. For those of you guys who don't know, this basically killed the world in Season 1, where we had the storage drawers and storage bus combination void items, and we lost a lot of stuff. And to be honest, that killed my motivation, so I have a vendetta against storage drawers. So we're going to avoid using them. I know they're technically still viable, but nah, screw the storage drawers. We're not going to use them. Okay, so here in the void dimension, I've set up basically the inverse of what we had at the storage drawers. So this will import everything from the drawer network into the drives. I'm just going to finish this between episodes because it's going to be quite tedious and probably slow. I'm also curious how many ME drives we're going to end up with. Maybe you guys can guess in the comments section how many we're going to fill up between episodes. I suppose it does depend on which tier of storage cell I end up crafting. But for the end of this episode, I want to mention how we're going to handle the crop outputs. And because obviously ore processing is going to stay where it is. And fluids we're going to handle another day. So I've counted this out. We're going to craft 24 interfaces. No, we're not. Oh, wait a second. I just realized there's things on these drives that we need. Yeah, we need to do some crafting for this next step, and we need access to all these items, so let's put these back first. So to handle the crops, we're going to craft 24 interfaces, which I've added recipes for. I didn't realize there was an assembler recipe. Is this new? I think it used to only be the shaped crafting recipe. And we're going to put the crop outputs in a super chest, which has the functionality to void overflow. You might be saying, well, how is this different to the drawers? Well, you know how I feel about drawers. So we need 24 of these things. I think the number is 22, but I'm going to craft some extra. Oh, that's 23. We're one conveyor short. And we're one motor short. Okay, I believe I've crafted the rest of the components here for 24 super chests. We should just be able to shift click this. Yeah, that's 23 and we're one circuit short. I mean, it's LV circuits. Let's just order like 512. Uh-oh. Oh, that's just a buffer issue. Okay, let's not order that many. Let's just do one. And then obviously we'll also need 24 storage buses to be able to connect it to Applied Energistics. And the interface is the wrong version. It's the smaller interface that we need for some reason in the recipe. I wish they were all like the same, or you could use either or. Okay, 24 storage buses, there we go. And to be fair, we could probably recycle the ones that are already on the drawer network, but we'll have to craft more in the future anyway, so having some extra is not necessarily a bad thing. And there's the last super chest. Okay, and here in the void, I've added, well, first of all, I replaced the glass cable with covered cable. I'm still not sure how I feel about this. I might still switch it underground, but I'm going to have to come up with some sort of design to hide the cable, or do something with it, some sort of support structure. So we have a wireless connector which goes down to the floor, and then underneath here we have a P2P connection. And fortunately, actually we're going to have to add two P2P connections eventually, because each one of these is 7 wide, so that's 28 channels. So it actually fits nicely with the dense cable providing 32. There's only going to be a few short. So we'll have our super chests lined up along here. And if in the future we want to move these and have all the drives in the same section, then we might. But it's just easier for channels at the moment since we only have a limited number of drives and chests. But honestly, I can't foresee us having that many more chests. So we want storage buses on each one of these chests. So back at the overworld base here, this drawer network here is the output of the crops. And the way that we currently import is using an ender chest. So this is all of the crop network. I'm going to stop this just for now. Yeah, you can see here the rate that we're kind of generating items. So we want to make sure we can overflow void these things. But this is really the only situation in the base where we want to do so. So we're going to grab one of each item so we can set the filters. Purple dye. Are we really farming purple dye? I don't think we are. That might have been an old crop. And I noticed we're out of red granite dust. Red granite dust is automatically processed in one of these machines to give us some of these outputs. But I'm going to leave these drawers in place until we can move these machines over to the void. And then eventually we'll give all of these their own super chests as well. Oh, you know what? Red granite dust is being processed in the electrolyzer at ore processing. I bet it's in this input bus. Yeah, there it is there. So you can see how like interconnected all of our base is. It's not so simple to transfer things over, but I think it's still... I think the way we're doing it is still the way to go. So by default, these super tank 1s can store 4 million items each. So we want to obviously enable overflow void. So that after 4 million items, I don't think we need 4 million of any of the crops that we have. Yeah, hitting it with the screwdriver enables overflow void. And then for each of these storage buses, we just want to give it a filter. Nether wart, paper. It doesn't really matter the order because it's all going to go into digital storage anyways. I forgot which one I was on. Wheat. Yeah, sticky resin. And rotten flesh, and that should be the last one. Now, of course, there is also upgrades to super chests. We can go all the way up to like tier 5 super chest. So if we find that we need to hold more items, the tier 5 holds 64 million blocks. And in fact, there's even a quantum chest, which we can't craft yet. I mean, we can, but this is nether stars, and nether stars ain't so easy to get. So I mentioned about a brand new feature here in GTNH, which is only introduced a couple of months ago, I believe. And that is a new AE card called the Sticky Card. And what this essentially does is, let me drop this inventory. From what I understand, this ensures that if anything has a filtered destination on the network in a storage bus, like what we just done there for the super chests, it can only ever go to that destination. and it will never be ingested by another interface or be sent anywhere else other than that specific destination. So I realized that the sticky card is not strictly necessary for us in this specific scenario, because we can just use a priority system, and because these super chests have overflow voiding capability, at least wherever Applied Energistics is concerned, this is always going to be a valid storage destination. So we could just technically set these all to 1000 priority, which is I think what we will do. But the sticky card is like an added layer of protection against, in case we mess up the priority system on other devices. And remember, high priority storage is insert first, extract last, and low priority storage is insert last, extract first. But just to maybe give you guys a better visual understanding of the sticky card, because it does have other applications outside of what we're trying to do here. So we are on a subnet here. This is the only 3 devices on the network because we're separated by a quartz fiber. This is just for testing here. So as you know, whenever you give an item to an interface, it's going to go to any available storage. And for us, it's either the baby chest or the regular chest. They are both on the same priority. They're both on 1000. So any of these count as a valid destination. However, if we now give one the sticky card, and inside here is obviously this fellstone block. If we give another one to the interface here, it's only ever allowed to go to this specific chest. Even if we set this to 4000 priority, which is technically it should go to the baby chest, if we give this fellstone block back to the interface, it never goes here. As you can see, it only ever ends up in this destination because this one has an item here and a sticky card in the storage bus. So it's a pretty cool feature. I want to thank the dev who added this. It's a very similar thing to EnderIO sticky functionality on the conduits. And I wanted to show it off here in the episode. Maybe you guys have some suggestions on ways we can implement this. I can already see a couple of applications or use cases for it. And it's actually relatively cheap as well. It's just a basic card and a slime ball. So we're going to add these to all the super chests. Yeah, it's a sticky destination, so sticky resin, that was probably a bad example to pick. Any sticky resin entering our system can only ever be allowed to be stored in this specific storage chest. So yeah, now we can just plug them in. Oh yeah, of course, this piece here has to be a dense cable to handle all the channels. Now they should establish themselves. And we can now re-enable the insert from the ender chest here, which is the crop input into the network. And this can basically now just go into any interface and we don't have to worry about storage destinations. And it's going to go to the correct place, I hope. Maybe we'll just disconnect it just to be sure. So yeah, that ingested everything into the network. And those chests should have contents inside now. Let's see, do they? Yes, perfect. Yep, we've got salt sugar beets, which is oxygen for us whenever we process it. Salty root, which is salt. Glowing coral, black granite. All of our stuff here seems to be in order. Perfect. But anyways, guys, with that, I think we're going to wrap up the episode here. It was another lengthy episode, but some of you guys appreciate the longer episodes. Yeah, I'm not really going to worry about length from now on. I'm just going to basically build it around the content. Although perhaps I shouldn't be too ambitious at the beginning of the episode, stating the goals. But we got some good stuff done today. We can take all this down as well. And the supercapacitor here, just as a quick update, turns off at almost exactly 3 billion energy. We have a bit of loss, remember, but the circuit turns off at 3 billion out of a total 4.2 billion, which is actually perfect for us. That's exactly what we want. So yeah, I'm going to continue here to fill up the ME drives, and I kind of dread to see how many more storage cells I'm going to craft, but maybe it's not going to be that bad. I'll give you guys an update next episode. But yeah, from me for now, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Gregtech New Horizons.